Hello and welcome back to Big Mouth and welcome to Monday's edition of the dceu Daily. Remember, if you've got any ideas for any topics you want me to discuss, any articles, any videos, please tag me on Twitter at MoviesTVMad. And on today's dceu Daily, we'll be discussing the possibility of HBO Max asking Zack Snyder to direct 3 more Justice League movies. We do have an article to read. And after that, we are going to discuss why Henry Cavill hasn't played Superman since 2017, since the disaster that is Justice League. And sorry, Grace Randolph, your toxic little thing that you've been saying for quite a while, that Henry Cavill is this greedy diva who's been negotiating for more money for over 3 years now, is absolute BS. So let's read this article. This is from Small Screen. HBO Max rumoured to want a Justice League trilogy from Zack Snyder, from Edward Lauder. It's been rumoured that HBO Max and Warner Media want Zack Snyder to get to make his Justice League trilogy. This rumour was reported by Geekosity's Mike Sutton, who also claims that HBO Max wants these to be a miniseries, just like the upcoming Snyder Cut. We did report a few weeks back that HBO Max and AT&T had already got the ball rolling on a Justice League 2. We were told by our sources that Snyder and Chris Terrio were already working on the film's script. Well, we're now hearing from Geekosity that HBO Max and AT&T actually want Zack Snyder to develop a Justice League trilogy, which is just brilliant news as far as I'm concerned. And why? There's not much news on what might happen in this trilogy, but I'm sure that many of you cannot wait to see what might unfold. Here's what Geekosity's Mickey Sutton wrote about this rumoured Zack Snyder Justice League trilogy that is reportedly in the works at HBO Max and Warner Media. Apparently, although I'm placing numbers on the Justice League follow-ups, they won't be movies. They will have cinematic budgets, but they are going to give Snyder the hours to let the stories fully unfold. What HBO Max is looking for are superheroic Game of Thrones live-action graphic novels. When Snyder does continue Justice League, it will be in that format. It will give him space to develop Darkseid, bring Green Lantern into the team, allow him creative freedom. He can also push the edges without fearing a PG-13 will become a no-no for mega superhero movies in theatres. I love the idea of these upcoming Justice League films not actually being films. There'll be HBO Max's future Game of Thrones style event shows. That sounds very exciting to me, and me too. What do you make of this news? Well, I think it's fantastic news if it's true. Right, let's talk about this. Well, it's quite simple for me, really. Zack Snyder has said officially that he doesn't know if this is going to happen, and if he's okay whether it happens or not. Of course he's not going to say he's doing it. He can't. But here's the thing, right? Let's get one thing absolutely clear here, right? Without the Snyderverse fandom, HBO Max wouldn't be getting what it's got now, which is the support and the subscriptions from the Snyder fandom. Without us, I don't know where they would be. And they know that. Some people are saying they have to wait to see how many people subscribe, how many people stream Zack Snyder's Justice League. I think that's absolute BS because we are keeping them afloat. And Jason Kilar and Ann Sarnoff know this. They know we're like a bunch of football fans or soccer fans or whatever you want to call us, right? We're so passionate. We're cheering this Snyderverse on, and we have been for a very long time. They know that's priceless in terms of a streaming service. And so I have absolutely no doubt that this is true, that this is going to happen. I genuinely believe it with all of my being. I really do. I think it's going to happen. They have seen the upturn in subscriptions. They know this is going to be a success. There is no reason why they wouldn't do this. So I think he will do a Justice League trilogy, another 3 seasons of Justice League. I have no doubt about this. And as he says himself, I think it's a situation where you can let Zack take his time do what he wants, no rush, and it's kind of divorced from the rest of the DCEU, but it is part of Jim Lee's and Walter Hamada's multiverse strategy, which of course is very, 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 very important. I believe there is no question of Zack Snyder's Justice League not being a success on HBO Max. I think whether you are into Zack or not, you will be streaming this and you will be subscribing to HBO Max. So I have no doubt about this. I'm very excited about the whole situation, and let's just enjoy the build-up to Zack Snyder's Justice League. But, you know, I'll say this again because Zack has said it many times in many interviews. At this moment in time, I don't expect to do more, but we will wait and see. Which is the only thing he can say. He can't say, listen, I expect this thing to be so successful, so popular, I've made the best thing ever. Of course he can't. He's got to wait and see. But I believe the discussions are already taking place. It's been 3 years since we've seen Henry Cavill play Superman in Justice League, right? And everyone's wondering why. Why doesn't Cavill really speak about Superman? Now, we know that he was at the watch party with Deb and Zack and, the Snyder family fandom when Zack Snyder's Justice League was announced. And he spoke about it really eloquently. And he does now and again. But he very, really rarely talks about, Man of Steel and BVS. And there's a reason for that. Because it hurts. What they did to him in Justice League was disgusting. And just like Ray Fisher and the rest of the people, they had to spew out these lies of support. And so ever since that day, Henry Cavill has been fighting for a Man of Steel Codex sequel. This is not negotiable in terms of how Henry Cavill feels. It's not negotiable. He doesn't want to do anything else in terms of Superman until he does this Man of Steel Codex sequel, because this is really important. Now, you may ask, and I kind of question this myself as much as I love BVS, why wasn't the Codex mentioned? Maybe BVS would have been better served to do a Codex sequel because it's such a fabulous concept. Well, it is interesting, and I think it's because Snyder had more creative control. This was no longer David Goya's or Christopher Nolan's baby, even though David Goya did the first draft of the screenplay. Chris Terrio did a further rewrite, and it was his story, not Goya's anymore. But I love the BVS story, and I love the BVS movie, and I love where he was going to take it with his Justice League trilogy, right? Or 2 movies or whatever it was going to be. This is not a criticism of Zack Snyder before you get your panties in a bunch. I love him in terms of the DCEU, and I always will. I was watching Man of Steel yesterday. The more I see that film, the more I love it. Visually stunning, but emotionally. He gets performances from the actors that his critics and his haters won't admit he gets. But in terms of Henry Cavill, and you know why I know Henry Cavill's been fighting for this Codex Man of Steel sequel for 3 years? Because he's blatantly said it. I remember him when they were publicising, marketing Mission Impossible Fallout. He was standing there with the director saying, the director has an idea, I have an idea, we're going to go to Warner Brothers and suggest what we want to do. He was saying he has lots of adaptation ideas from Superman graphic novels. Cavill has been very clear, though, in interviews that he loved Man of Steel and he wants to do a straight sequel of Man of Steel. He has said this from the very, very beginning. The problem was he couldn't go to Zack with this situation at that time because Zack was out the door. They'd driven Zack out. So there was no way. It was impossible for Henry to go to WB after Justice League and say, for example, look, I want Zack to do this. I've got an idea. I want to talk to Zack about it. He couldn't do that at that time because Zack was no way going to get a Man of Steel sequel. He wasn't going to get anything at Warner Brothers because of what happened with MOS, but especially BVS, which are two of the best comic book movies ever made, as I say. Stunning visually, but the stories are so compelling too. When you look at Man of Steel, Jesus Christ, this is a Superman origin story set in the background of an alien invasion story. It is amazing. It's so ambitious. For example, you look at someone like Zod. Zod is very, very representative of, loyal generals who care about the culture they're protecting. But they get so frustrated with the corrupt leaders, they cause a regime change. This is what he does in the opening of Man of Steel on Krypton. He's had enough. So when that woman says, when he comes in and says, basically, that's it, I've had enough of you, I'm changing things, you're under arrest, and she goes, by whose authority? That really pisses Zod off, so he kills her. He shoots her, and it looks a really cold thing for him to do. In fact, from a certain point of view, you could argue if Zod's even a villain in Man of Steel. And I find that very interesting. I've had very heated debates with people. People think I'm a bit of a psycho, a villain myself, thinking Zod has a good point in Man of Steel. He has. I don't agree with what he's doing on Earth, but he's so far gone. His heart is broken. All he wants to do is bring back Krypton to continue the existence and survival of his own culture. And you see this in African countries and Middle Eastern countries. And you can argue this when you think about the terrible, unforgivable terrorism that goes on. But those people are exactly like Zod. They were good soldiers. They were good people with families, and their families died. And they just want their communities to survive, right? Now, I don't defend anyone who does what Zod did or does what these terrorists do. I want to be absolutely clear about this. But from a certain point of view, you can go back to their past and see they were actually heroes. And what I love about Man of Steel, it's made very clear by Jor-El that Zod was once the hero of Krypton. He was the Superman of Krypton. And basically, what happens to Zod in Man of Steel is going to happen to Superman in the nightmare future in Zack Snyder's Justice League. Superman is going to become what he fought against in Man of Steel. There's some beautiful poetry in that and irony. And going back again to Henry Cavill, he wants to explore that film further, but mainly the Codex story, because you've got to remember, Superman, has got 1 million Kryptonian life forms inside of him, right? Sounds a bit ew, but it's a very compelling concept. So the idea of Goya was in the next film, which he did write a sequel, but unfortunately they wanted to do BVS because they wanted $1 billion Man of Steel box office return globally and they didn't get it. Doesn't make Man of Steel a failure, but so they started to say, let's introduce Batman and see where we can go with this. I don't think that's a right or a wrong decision. It depends your way of thinking. Obviously, I love BVS, so, I'm happy that we got it. But it means that Man of Steel 2, the original sequel by Goya, which was going to focus on the Codex, and the whole idea was of the Codex that these Kryptonian life forms were going to be born. There was going to be all these Kryptonians. And it's like what Jor-El says to Cal in Man of Steel. You can be the balance between Kryptonians and humans. He has to be the person standing in the middle going, no, we can live together. And this is what really Superman is in the comics. So don't tell me that Goya doesn't know Superman or Snyder doesn't know Superman. I think this is a very timely, compelling story to tell. And Henry Cavill knows this. So credit to Henry for fighting for this for nearly 3 years or over 3 years or whatever it's been. Credit to him. So no, Grace Randolph, Henry Cavill isn't a diva. In fact, he's a nerd like you and me, fighting for something that matters. The Codex Man of Steel sequel matters. It will be an awesome sequel to Man of Steel. We already had one sequel to Man of Steel, BVS. That is true. This is the direct sequel to Man of Steel. Now, whether or not this is pre-BVS or after BVS, I think if Zack's going to do this Justice League trilogy, and I believe with all my heart that he will, I think this should be a prequel to BVS. But then saying that, how do you do that with nothing ever mentioned? So that will be difficult. So I'm kind of contradicting myself there. Look, I don't care where this comes, but I want to see a direct sequel to Man of Steel with Supergirl, the Codex sequel that Henry wants. Now, Henry's a very intelligent actor. He's a great actor. And let's just look at The Witcher. The numbers it's doing, it's the most successful Netflix original right now. Why is that? Yeah, partly because The Witcher is a very, very popular game. But the other half is because Henry Cavill is so popular as Superman. This is why Barbara Broccoli and Michael G. Wilson are considering him as the next Bond. He would bring box office. He would put butts in seats, especially women, because we want to get more women in cinemas watching films, right? You shouldn't just make films just for one entity. And it's even interesting when they do try and make female-led films, it's the male villains, like Lex Luthor in Supergirl, or Black Mask in Birds of Prey, that gets all the attention and all the love. That's an absolute failure, isn't it, in a way, because you're not bringing women, you're not inspiring women to go to cinema. So it's an interesting situation. But I believe what Henry Cavill's been doing is absolutely fantastic. I want to see the Man of Steel Codex sequel, because the Codex, the very fact that this being has 1 million Kryptonian cells in his DNA, right? It's an amazing story, narrative conceit. And I want to see David Goyer come back and tell his story, and I want Zack Snyder to direct it. And it'll probably be on HBO Max, either as a limited series or an HBO Max original movie. I can't see it being a cinematic movie, seeing that J.J. Abrams is developing a cinematic kind of universe for his Superman. So I don't care what platforms it's on, but this has to happen. Man of Steel deserves this. Zack Snyder deserves this. David Goyer deserves this. But at the very least, Henry Cavill deserves this. Comment down below, like, share and subscribe, and I'll be back tomorrow with even more DCEU Daily. See you again soon.